Hey everyone, today we're going to be continuing our operations with decimals with multiplying and dividing. So this stuff can look kind of scary, but don't worry, we'll work through it and everything will be good. So multiplying decimals only has 3 steps to it, and those 3 steps are going to actually hopefully not be too bad. So let's take a look. Step 1. Count the number of digits written after the decimal in both numbers. So in my first problem, or my first number, I should say, I have 8 2/10. There is one number after the decimal place in that number. Next, I have 9 7/10. 7 is the only number after that decimal. So therefore, I have a total. Sorry, that S is going to annoy me. There we go. A total of 2 numbers after decimals. So again, what I did was I took just another color, even your pencil works fine, and I put an underline under how many numbers were after the decimals in my original problem and counted them together. So 2 and 7, add the amount of digits together, and I got 2 numbers. That's going to be important for the very end of our problem. Great. Now I can move on to step 2, which is multiply the numbers as usual. And for right now, just ignore the decimals. So we're going to keep in mind that there were 2 digits after the decimals in our original problem. And we're going to just multiply like usual. So some of you might use a different strategy. Just as long as you get your answer, I am fine with that. But this is the strategy that I'm going to use during class. So 7 times 2 is 14. Carry that 1. 7 times 8 is 56, plus another 1 is 57. Yay, I'm all done multiplying by 7s, so I can cross out that 7 and put a 0 underneath because I'm no longer multiplying by anything in the 1 spot. Now I have to multiply 9 times 2, which is 18. Carry that 1 again. 9 times 8 is 72, plus another 1 is 73. I'm going to add these together. 4 plus 0 is 4. 7 plus 8 is 15. Carry that 1. 1 plus 5 plus 3 is going to be 9. And 7 is going to be left by itself. Yay, I have my answer, but there is one more step I have to do. That is where that step 1 comes into play. So again, there were 2 numbers after the decimals in our original problem. Guess what? That's the same amount of numbers you want to have after the decimal in your answer. So step 3, place the same number of digits from step 1 behind or to the right of the decimal in your answer. So I had 2 numbers. Take a look. Number 1, number 2, 2 digits right after my decimal. So that is how you multiply decimals. If you have any questions about that, please let us know. Okay, the dreaded dividing of decimals. So if you know your long division, then we're just going to put some extra steps in there. If you don't, then this is going to be a little bit difficult for you, so please make sure you brush up on those skills. Again, I'm going to do division in one method. If you use division in another method, go ahead and continue using that. The same ideas still apply. So here we go. Step 1, move the decimal of the divisor, or the second number in the division problem, to the right to make it a whole number. So we're not actually going to be dividing by a decimal. Instead, what we want to do is make it whole so that it is no longer an issue. So my second number is 2 4/10. I am moving that decimal 1 spot to the right so that I now am dividing instead by 24 instead of 2 4/10. Dividing by 24 is something we already know how to do, so it should be good. Yay! Now we can move on to step 2. Move the decimal of the dividend, or the first number in a division problem, the same number of spaces to the right as you move the decimal in step 1. So what we do in step 1 affects what we do in step 2. I moved the decimal 1 spot to create that whole number. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the decimal in my dividend, or in that first number, that same amount. So again, I'm moving it to the right, taking my decimal, and I'm moving it once. Now this one can and most likely will stay a decimal, but that is okay. So now, instead of my original problem of 78 hundredths divided by 2 and 4/10, I'm now dividing 7 and 8/10 divided by 24. Okay, so let's move on to step 3. Step 3, put your new dividend inside the division box and place a decimal right above the decimal point in your number. So this is where we set up the problem. Our dividend is that first number inside, or in our division problem. I'm putting that inside that division box, and I'm bringing that decimal straight up. So straight up into the spot where right above where that decimal is. Whew, that makes things a whole lot easier, because now we can move on to step 4, which is divide as usual, making sure to have the same amount of numbers before your decimal as your change dividend. So we're dividing and kind of ignoring that decimal place for now. The only thing that we're really going to pay attention to with that is that I have one number in front of the 7, or sorry, the 7 is in front of the decimal, so that's one number. That means that I should have one number right above that. So that can get kind of confusing if you don't really pay attention to that. Okay, and here we go. So my first amount is 24. Can that go into 7? The answer to that is no. So I'm going to put 0 at the top. 0 times 24 is 0. When we subtract, I'm left with 7. And that allows me to bring down that 8. Now, how many times can 24 go into 78? Well, the answer to that is 3 times. And remember, you might need to have an extra scrap sheet of paper in order to do your guess and check strategies if you don't know this offhand. 3 times 24 is going to be 72. So we're going to subtract. 8 minus 2 is 6. So since we already have a decimal in our answer, we don't have to put another one. So what we're going to do instead is add that 0 and bring it straight down. 24 can go into 62 times without going over. 2 times 24 is going to be 48. When we subtract, we can't take 8 away from 0, so we have to borrow. 8 or 10 minus 8 is 2. And 5 minus 4 is 1. Again, since we already have that decimal up there, we can bring that 0 down, and now we have 120. Well, lucky for us, 24 can go into 120, and that is 5 times. 5 times 24 is exactly 120, which leaves us without a remainder. So that means that 325 hundredths, or thousandths, but 325 thousandths is going to be our answer. It is a lot of steps to it, so please do not get frustrated if there are any little mistakes. All we can do is push through and try our best. If you have any questions, please ask.